Hi, my name is Nick Galbreath. I work at Etsy. I'm one of the directors of engineering there. I manage a group of engineers, mostly in enterprise-related features. So that includes things such as fraud, security, authentication, internal tools, business analytics, email infrastructure, all that other good stuff. And we are right here in Austin, Texas for DevOpsDays.
Can you talk a little bit about what you talked about this morning?
Sure. So the talk this morning was DevOpsSec, which isn't the most creative name, as I discovered the hard way here, but it's applying DevOps principles to security. And the first part of the talk really was like, well, what the hell is DevOps principles? Because it's not really a formalized canon of law here. And I sort of came to the conclusion that really you boil down DevOps principles to trust but verify. Trusting people, but verifying what they do, processes, machines, providing the transparency in order to know if things are working well or not. And you can sort of squint hard enough, you can extend that to most of the other sort of DevOpsy type stuff, continuous integration and mean time to resolve or detect and things like that. And then I sort of discussed about a number of the sort of tips and tricks we do at Etsy. And a lot of that is, none of them are very difficult technically. They're all about making security a visible, visceral thing instead of like the bogeyman that no one really takes very seriously. So detecting, if you have a website, you are constantly being probed for SQL injection attacks, cross-site scripting problems, and as part of the DevOpsSec thing is taking those attacks that are occurring normally and making them visible to the organization. Segmentation faults is another good one. Your server 500 errors, but also more sort of soft things like password resets, login failures, correlating those to IP addresses. All things you have like centralized logging, you can sort of do a lot of grep awk typing stuff, make graphs of that, show the organization things are happening, and that helps get people involved and makes it a real thing. The other thing, we're really working on is making things visible. That's great. And then it's really providing training for people. A lot of security stuff is saying no, but without giving them an alternative, which is a pretty shitty job situation. So training, in-house training, also for not just us, but for other external contractors and consultants and actual vendors. We found that they need training just as much as we do frequently, sometimes more. And also being able to deploy quickly is really something that's almost required for vendors and contractors we use. If they have a security problem, doesn't mean Etsy should be exposed while they're figuring stuff out. They need to be able to react quickly as well. And then the other thing is a large number of attacks are toward the people at the organization, attacking their home machines, attacking their regular machines, phishing emails, account takeover, all this stuff. And so while we have a nice policy for regular Etsy-provided computers, providing that same level of protection for their home machines also really helps a lot. So we're going to start allowing people to bring their home devices in, give them a tune-up, upgrade to the latest patch level, maybe upgrade to Windows 7 or 8, scrub the machine, and just have them have a safe environment to work from as well.
Why is this important to you, which I think you've kind of covered? What are your biggest impediments of the DevOps movement and how it relates to you?
Sure. There's sort of a general, let me put it this way, here's my goals for how developer operations can be improved. And computer science degrees, undergraduates, it's focused on development. And even though you have like pretty painful homework assignments and projects you're working on, none of it's actually real in the sense that it's running in a production environment. And there's only two types of code in production and code not in production. And getting can you hear it? We have to start all over?
No, it's fine.
Short story is getting developers to know their code isn't an abstraction. This is something that actually runs on real hardware that's maintained by real people, and getting them more involved with how their things actually work. And then on the flip side, operations needs to leverage more engineering in order to automate and produce what they do as well. So for me, I've only been at sort of like pretty fast-growing startups, so it's never been the case. Like, how else would you do it? How else would you be able to do it? Be in a hyper-growth company that development operations working? It sounded so quiet earlier.
Where would you like to see the DevOps movement in the next 2 or 3 years, like in the future? Which, I know you're talking about the future.
Yeah.
So.
The future next 2-3 years, there is no DevOps. It's standard. Yeah, that's right. We'll have to talk about something else. I don't know what it would be.
Right. I also heard you shout no tools.
No tools. Well, I think there is. So DevOps movement right now is a bit of a nascent state where no one's really quite sure what it is, and there's a huge emphasis on tooling. But tooling is really ends to the means. It's really the goal. And so there's lots of sort of competing packages that they all do 90% of everything. But at the end of the day, it's, trust, transparency, being able to verify stuff, having automatic processes. How that's done is honestly not nearly as interesting as people actually doing that. So is there going to be a big shakeout in tools? I don't know, but there's an explosion of tools. And honestly, at the end of the day, all they do is they all run the same stuff. It's like network connections, bash, all the same stuff. So you could actually just have no tools and just use the raw stuff.
All right.
If you're brave, yeah.
Bravery.
Yeah. People need to know how stuff actually works, and I'm concerned there's too much abstraction. People need to know how to move things around, how to turn on and off services. Otherwise, what are they learning? They're learning ops code or Puppet as opposed to what it actually is in network services. All right.
So send half of these guys home.
Training's good. I mean, they did. It's a tool to help automate over a large cluster. If that's the future, then these tools are good. But at the end of the day, you could do the exact same thing by pushing bash scripts out and running them, and that's not necessarily preferred. I'm just saying don't want to get too fluffy.
What does your family think you do? What do you tell them?
Well, it's funny. I go, Mom, I'm in engineering management, and she's like, what does that mean? It's like, well, people. And then I'm stuttering just like I am now, like I don't quite know. And she's like, what do you mean? Do you tell them what to do? And it's like, oh. Create environments conducive for getting work done is how I describe it.
That's good. You're stranded on a desert island and you're doing what you do somehow alone. What book would you take? Related or not related?
Sort of related. So for some reason or another, I'm not quite sure why, but the DevOps movement borrows a lot of, we have someone here working on Kanban and sort of a lot of stuff on Japanese manufacturing metaphors. Isn't a one-to-one mapping. And someone was talking about testing in my group, and as a goof, I found out later, a goof recommended the Toyota Way, which came out, I don't know, like 10 years ago. And I read it and think it's absolutely awesome. I told him that, goes, oh, I didn't actually mean for you to read that, but I actually find it's a fantastic book for software development, which I'd love to discuss another time, Gene. But I actually think that would be my book. I think it is full of pretty interesting things. It's more on just the process of building things, not so much DevOps.
That's all I got.
Well, I guess we're done.
Yeah.
Easy.
Easy.